And hello, Tullahoma. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Tullahoma At Work Podcast. This is where we introduce you to the people behind the scenes that keep Tullahoma running. My name is Lyle Russell, and I am your host here and your Community Engagement Officer. And it is my honor to introduce our guest today, Alderman Matthew Bird. Welcome.
Howdy. Thanks for letting me be here.
Yes, very much. I appreciate you coming. And like I said, you have the dubious distinction of being the very first guest on the Tullahoma At Work Podcast. So,
I'm not stressing it too much.
yeah, see, you've got that going for you. So we'll go to a very hard-hitting question right out of the gate. So you're at a party, and the ice cream comes out, and it's Neapolitan, and your go-to flavor is?
I'm going to take all three of them. I like to be able to mix and mingle my flavors.
So that's what you're an animal. You're an animal. The strawberry that's my go-to, but that's okay. If you like all three, that's good. That's good. So probably the first question I intend to ask all of my guests coming on the show is, tell me your Tullahoma story. Tell me how you got here. What brought you to Tullahoma?
Yeah, I was born at Harton, so I guess really I started here because my parents chose here. But I went to Farrah Elementary, West Middle School, and then Tullahoma High School. I lived in Knoxville for about a year after that, then Shelbyville, and moved back here. So I got my taste for the big cities and realized it wasn't really for me. I like that quiet, small town feel, and This is perfect for that.
And that Knoxville being the big city, yeah.
Yeah. It was just enough that I could realize that I didn't need to go bigger than that either.
Yeah. I know where I'm from in Florida, it was a big city as well. And I realized after I moved here how much I really don't like big cities. So I like Tullahoma size.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. Well, you gave me a really good bio to work off of here. And one of the things that you said in here that I thought was really good was that you played in the THS marching band.
Yes. I was a trombone player from 6th grade. I think my freshman year was my last year in band.
Yeah?
4 years.
Do you still have a trombone?
Nope, and I don't think I could play it anymore.
No, I was going to ask you, can you still rock it or no? So you played in middle school.
Yes.
And then all the way up through high school. Did marching band and symphonic or any other just marching band? Or?
Yeah, it was mostly, I guess, symphonic in middle school, but then high school it was marching band and symphonic.
Okay.
It was a really great thing to do. I think that's where all my hearing loss comes from. But it was a great thing to do. Made some great friends there.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen the band obviously since then. So.
Oh, yes. They're still phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. I was very lucky. My son was a trumpet player for all 6 years of middle to high school, and he really enjoyed that too. He didn't do symphonic, though, but those weekend band competitions, those are rough.
Mm-hmm. There were some very long weekends there that, I don't know what time we got home, but I was asleep on the bus back.
Oh yeah. So hats off to all the band parents out there, because I know that's a rough schedule. I mean, any student athlete or any type of student association.
Yeah. Anything that causes your children to travel, the parents are involved too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Now you've got some little ones as well, correct?
Yes, I have an 11-year-old. He's in his 5th grade year at Bel Air right now.
Okay. And is he interested in band, or what's his thoughts?
He is playing the recorder right now and apparently doing really good at that.
Oh, good.
I realized I can't read sheet music anymore when he showed some to me, and I said, I don't know what that means. But his other interest is archery, so
cool.
He's hoping to be able to join an archery team eventually. Cold weather, he doesn't get to practice as much. We're not shooting that in the house. So
yeah, well, you could, but probably
no. I don't think you can.
No, you don't. Well, I guess we do it differently at my house, because I'd at least want to see it. But no, I'm kidding. Please don't shoot arrows in your house. That would not be a good idea. So you've got an 11-year-old and a.
That's it. Just the 11.
Oh, you just have an 11-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Do you think you'll follow in Dad's footsteps?
I have no clue. I kind of let him do his own thing and support him whatever he chooses to do there.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. And where does he? Oh no, you told me where he goes. So he's not a frog though.
No. He's a Bel Air bee.
I gotcha.
He loves bees because of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something in the Parks and Rec world. We always try to do pollinator-friendly stuff. So, we have a little soft spot for Bel Air in the Parks and Rec department.
Oh, yes.
Well, very good, very good. So one of the other things that you mentioned in your bio, though, is that you also have an affinity for the arts, and I'm assuming that comes from a little bit of your band background. So
Yeah.
and we serve together on the Arts Council. So
Yeah, I was really, really happy when Lynn asked if that's something that I'd want to take on. I've always loved going to see plays, to see bands, to see the symphonic arts. So being asked to be on the Arts Council, I really enjoyed that. It was actually my wife and I's first date was at South Jackson, and that's where we got married, was right in front of the big mirror in South Jackson.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's something that's been really close to our family.
Oh, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Now, South Jackson is haunted. I don't know if you knew this or not, but
I've heard the rumor.
it is. It is. I know somebody we can talk to about that. But no, that's a neat building. That I'd never really thought of it as a wedding venue, but that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah, just something that we thought about, and yeah, it kind of aligns with us.
Oh, well, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So now, you were born here in Tullahoma, moved around a little bit. You came back, and I know that you have a love for the arts. So what do you do outside of your aldermanic duties?
Oh, besides work, if I have the time, I love to play video games with my son. It's something that he has a big passion for, and even though I might not be good at it, it's something that I can at least struggle through, so that it's something he and I can do together.
Right.
My wife and I, we like building Legos.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have an entire bookshelf just for some of the stuff we've built together, some of the stuff we built before we met.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. Other than that, it depends on the time of year. If it's mowing season, I'm mowing.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it, but I'm doing it.
Yeah. That was another running joke we had at Parks and Rec, that if we could just get hired to just mow, we'd do it in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, there's the weed eating and the bagging and the leaves and the other stuff that goes with it. So, yeah, mowing's never bothered me, so I can get away with that. But
yeah, if I could choose never to mow again, I think I'd pick that.
well, you're in the right time of year for it, but it's coming up after this freezing cold day that we're in here on.
Oh yeah,
I've already seen grass sprigs popping in my backyard. So
I don't want to think about that.
So that's outside. So work-wise, though, what do you do?
I work at the Air Force Base. I am a planner for their machine shop. We start with a blueprint or sometimes a rough sketch, and come up with a plan to come to a finished part. If that ends up being in their schedule and budget, then we source materials. We get it scheduled to go on machines. It's I think most people would find it really boring, but I spent years as a machinist, and it's something that I just realized I was good at, and why not continue doing it?
No, that's kind of a hot industry too. I know, like the TCAP programs have a really big machinist program, and I even think the high school, if I remember correctly, I think they've even got a pre-class, I guess is the right word.
Yep. My first class was in high school with Mr. Gillum as the teacher.
Okay.
And that was kind of where my love for it first started.
So what's the coolest thing you've ever made besides Legos?
I spent a few years at Microcraft building some really interesting parts.
Okay.
Some of them I can't talk about, and I probably shouldn't even say I can't talk about them.
That's fine. That's fine. You can tell you, but I have to kill you kind of thing.
When I was at Cubic, we helped build the turnstiles and vending machines for subway systems, mass transit fare collection, I think is what they called it. So being able to see this sheet metal cabinet that I built, and then later on watching a movie and seeing in the background that same thing I built because they filmed it at a real location. What was it? It was one of the Planet of the Apes movies.
No kidding.
In the background, you see someone running through a subway, and I saw it and I paused it. I know that machine. I helped build that thing. They actually filmed it at a location in, I think that one was San Francisco or San Diego. So it's neat being able to see some of the things that I've helped build in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even the ones you can't talk about, though. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of that stuff go into production. So
it's always fascinating to see that stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially I'm assuming you're a creative type in that industry, and so especially doing Legos, because I had Legos as a kid too. So I loved them. I don't get to do them as much as an adult, but I loved them as a kid, and I would still play with them if I had them. But when you get that creative mindset where you're making something.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that's, if I had all the money in the world, I'd build myself a little shop in the backyard and get some simple machines and just make knickknacks and things like that. Just wood, metal, plastic. It doesn't matter what I make them out of. It's just that being able to make them.
Yeah. That's interesting that you say that, so my dad was a contractor in Florida, and I took shop class basically from 7th grade until I graduated. And with my dad and then taking shop at school, I was always making something.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of got that bug early. I like to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I can get lost in a little project like that, and then hours later realize I should probably stop and eat.
I do that too. My wife will finally say, "It's time to stop." So,
mm-hmm. Oh yes,
that's funny. That's funny. So, we've talked about what you do, and now you're an elected official. You've won an election. So, tell me or tell the folks that are listening. So, you've decided on a platform. You run for office. Election day comes, and now the results are coming in, and you found out you've won. What was that like?
A little bit of disbelief. I really considered myself an underdog there. I thought that there were candidates that we were all equal in what we were running on. And I really thought that it was just, I'm probably not going to win this, but it was fun to be able to do that and meet those people. So finding out that I had won, it was a little bit of disbelief. Sir Nobia McGee and I had decided to meet at Spinelli's to watch the results on a laptop, and we were both there, and we were like, wow, we're doing pretty good. And then it just kept coming in. It's like, we're doing okay, I think. So it was really cool to do that, though.
So unexpected.
Unexpected. I ended up having to go into work on the next day and telling my boss, like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to have to take some time off of work here and there now. And he's like, no, I understand that.
Yeah. How did your family react? What were their what was their take?
My wife, I think she was just as surprised as I was. My son thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So my dad, he was a commissioner for one term for Coffee County. Mm-hmm. So he was really proud of me, I think. And that was something we've been able to talk about and bond a little bit more on, is, some of the frustrations that might come with it, but then also the joy of being able to help some people. That's what it really comes down to, is being able to help out the community.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's why we all do what we do.
Yeah.
So now in this position, you've been in it now since it was August, I think is when that started. So you've been in it for a few months now. Has it been what you expected?
It hasn't been as stressful as some people told me it would be. I think that's kind of what you bring into it. It's that almost like a fake it till you make it,
Mm-hmm.
So just being able to pour myself into it when I can, but also realizing that I have my own limits of, I might not be able to go to this event, but I can go to this one. Mm-hmm. Being able to do research on what we're about to vote on, being able to call different departments to kind of hear why it is that we're needing to do certain things. That's been the only difficult part, is the time. Mm-hmm. But I can make time. So.
Yeah. I would imagine that's probably had to be a pretty big adjustment, not just with work, but with your family as well.
Yeah, and I think my wife, she's probably a little bit happier I'm out of the house more. I'll normally show her.
She gets the Legos to herself.
Yeah, I'll show her my calendar of, this is what I'm going to be doing this week. Do you want to go to any of these? And she'll, I might go to that one. No, you can go to the rest.
So what has been probably the most surprising thing you've found since you're now in the seat for 6 months or so, and what's been the most surprising thing to you?
Oh, wow.
That's a hard question, I know,
but the work that goes on behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. You look at the city as a whole, and it's like, you know what, we're doing good. We could improve this, we could improve that. But then when you start looking at what goes into something as simple as garbage pickup, it's not just a guy in a truck picking up your garbage cans. It's the maintenance that goes into it. It's planning ahead to buy a garbage truck before the one breaks, and hopefully it's not like what did happen where one broke and
right now
we're 12 months until we can get one. It's a lot of behind the scenes that I don't think I ever really realized that it was there. That so much effort goes into what most people would consider something simple.
And as a city employee now for 9 years, I am so glad to hear you say that. That is one thing that I have been asked that question in a similar circumstance, and I had almost the same answer. As you just would not believe the amount of effort that goes into even something small to make sure that, number one, it's safe, number one, it's needed, or number two, it's needed, it can be paid for. It's not going to create any undue hardship, and you have to think through all these things when you're doing a project on the city level. And that is one thing I'm glad to hear you say that it's very hard to put all those pieces together and then have a finished product that the citizenry will look at and go, hey, y'all did a great job with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I was able to do a ride along with the police department. I know it was warmer, so it wasn't during the winter.
Yeah.
And that was another really big eye opener. It's not just an officer sitting in a car waiting for something to happen. They're driving around so that they're mobile, so that hopefully they're near where they're needed when that call comes in, because we can't predict where that's going to happen. And then being able to talk to them about, what are some things that could happen that would improve your work quality of life. And one of the things that kept coming up, it was laptops. And we were able to use grant money to buy those laptops recently. But I was like, well, I just assumed y'all had laptops. No, we had older ones. They kind of went out of date, so couldn't use those anymore. So they were having to do a whole lot of back and forth that time could have been better served helping someone. Mm-hmm. So it's realizing that maybe there are some small improvements that could make big results.
Not only that, with a challenging job being a police officer, just being an officer, if you don't have quite the right tools to do the job, that does make a big difference, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It made me realize I could never be in that line of work. There are people who are cut out for it, and I applaud them, and I'm not one of those people.
I wasn't made for that either, so I understand. I can relate on that one. So a question I would probably also ask anyone else in your particular situation would be, what's your view on the current board?
I think that we're showing that we can work well together. I don't think we've even really had a chance to have a debate on anything yet, because so far it's been relatively simple topics. I know we're having a study session coming up Monday that we'll be able to discuss things a little bit more freely, and it's great to see that right now our board, it's a large representation of people of different backgrounds and of different areas of the city. It's not this cluster of 7 people who all live in the same neighborhood and all have the same jobs and all have done the same things in their life. We've got such a variety on the board. It really speaks for the variety of Tullahoma. Oh yeah,
most definitely. And so now in this role again, just thinking of your alderman side, what have you found to be the most challenging so far?
I would say that one of the most challenging things is it was a big learning curve to learn why we did things a certain way. To understand that, like with budget season coming up, we have this fairly strict schedule for it, but it's to make sure that July 1st, that we have an approved budget in place, and learning why it is that there are certain steps, because I'm a person that asks why. Why do we have to do this? Well, it's so that we have money. And so for me, I guess it's just getting answers to all those whys.
Well, and that's something I don't think people realize either, that when you get elected to a position like this, you don't just show up for an hour on a Monday night or every other Monday and say yes or no and go home. Like you said, there's a learning curve. You had to go through some training for this as well, correct?
Yeah, that was, I think in January, and that was not super fun, because that was working my regular job, getting off work and eating a little bit of food, and then going into training for 3 hours. So it was some really long days, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, just not being a finance-minded person, the budget was the hardest part for me to learn too. But believe it or not, working out at AEDC gave me my my best education on how to manage a government budget. And so when I came here, it felt like this one was actually a little easier, but that was just because of the experience I had. I don't know if you deal much with budgets in your position out there, but
I try not to, but I think I get forced into it.
yeah.
My big thing is if you can give it to me in a spreadsheet, that is great. I can filter through spreadsheets and make things make sense to me. 'Cause that's, I think that's some of the struggle for some people is you have to figure out the way that it makes sense to you.
Right.
Yeah, so sometimes it's just having some time to look over that information.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get out of that kind of stuff for a second. Let's talk about something fun again. So, also in reading in here, so you mentioned you have a very grumpy dog.
Oh yes, Wookie. His name is Wookie.
His name is Wookie. All right.
Yes.
Well, we're on the same page there. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. So
He, my wife adopted him. He was a rescue from a puppy mill. So he spent his first, we think, 2 years. We're not really sure how old he is, in a small cage. So when she rescued him, she had a real struggle. He'd never been or potty trained to go outside. So he is now, we think, about 15 years old.
wow.
He has an underbite, so he's always got teeth sticking out somewhere.
True Wookiee fashion there.
Oh, yeah. He earned his name well.
I got you.
And he likes to sleep under a blanket, and if someone doesn't know he's there and you get close to him, he lets you know. He's a terrifying 6-pound dog.
Oh, what breed is he? What kind of dog?
Oh gosh, he is a Pekingese Yorkie.
Okay, I think I can picture that.
Long hair that never stops growing, so we have to keep him trimmed. It's about time for him to get it trimmed, but it's so cold we don't want to cut his hair.
Yeah, and you have a cat as well.
Yes, we do have an elderly cat. I think she's about 16, completely deaf now, but she lives her life to the fullest, sleeping for about 20, 22 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. As cats do.
Yep, but she is a great cat. Because she's deaf, she doesn't realize how loud she is, so sometimes she'll come into her room screaming, and we just have to pause the TV for a minute, let her do her thing, and once she calms down, we can go back to regular conversations.
And what's her name?
She is Piglet.
Piglet. So Wookiee and Piglet. Do they get along?
Yeah, those two get along well. Our third dog, he's the youngest. He's 3 years old, and he's hyper, so it kind of makes the older animals a little upset. I think they're just jealous.
They kind of get off my lawn crowd.
Yeah. So he starts getting a little energetic, and the other animals are like, no, we're not ready for this.
I'm a big animal person, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, I've heard of some of your animals. They're
we got
fascinating ones.
We got a unique collection. So, and you mentioned in that what you gave me that one of your favorites. I happen to have a couple of them. Your favorite animal's an owl.
Oh, I love owls. They're beautiful. It's incredible the adaptations their body has so that they can be the incredible hunter that they are. And it's quite funny. My wife hates owls. Well, not hate. She doesn't like them. They creep her out. So, yeah, I want to go to a petting zoo and pet an owl. She wants to stay 200 feet away.
I don't know. Give us. We'll talk about that. Give me a few minutes with her, and we'll get her to like an owl. You know, I have one that she would probably really like. So. Yeah, but that's interesting when you put on there that your favorite animal is an owl, and we have talked briefly about this before, but I thought that was kind of unique. So.
Yeah, well, and she loves penguins, so it kind of fits with our last name that both of our favorite animals are
there
birds.
There you go.
Yeah.
So this is near and dear to me because I do this too, but you also put on here that you like dad jokes.
Oh, yes. The problem is my memory is horrible when it comes to jokes, so most of mine, it's like spur of the moment. Yeah, but then I can't remember them later.
Well, I think that's an aging thing. I think I'm a little older than you, but still, I do start to forget them too.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the ones that are repetitive, every time my son says, I'm hungry. Hi, hungry, I'm dad. It's the little ones like that they just, I don't know, they tickle my funny bone.
But one day when he has kids, he's going to do the same thing to his.
I hope he does. And then sometimes it's those ones that you got to put a lot of effort into it, and it pays off in the end. For a while, every time we saw cows when we were driving somewhere, I'd say it's a flock of cows. And I'd say that, and finally, after 10 times of saying that, someone finally said, no, it's a herd of cows. And I said, well, yeah, I've heard of cows. It's a flock of them right there. you got to have fun.
And you get the collective groan and the
Oh yeah. And my wife will just stare at me. Yeah.
So I get it. So my dad he's pretty bad about it too. But and you may get this now that you're an alderman, because people, I'm assuming they recognize you when you go out, because even though it's, I wouldn't necessarily say it's famous, but your face is now known. So
yeah.
So has that happened to you? Have you been out somewhere and say, "Hey, I know who you are"?
A couple of times, and I realized that it's one of those things that I don't mind being recognized, but for some reason I don't like it when someone tries to treat me different just because of that. I'm still just Matthew.
Yeah.
I don't need to be Sir or Mr. Bird or anything. It's just Matthew still. I'm a person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to remember where I was. I think it was Bark in the Park, and someone came up and said, "Hey, how you doing?" I was like, "Huh, I'm doing good." I stared at him for a second, and finally they said, "I work for Public Works. I saw you walk through the other day." I said, "Okay," because I did not remember you from anywhere, but then I remembered it. Started coming back to me. So yeah. I try and remember people's faces. I struggle with names. It's been a lifelong thing that I can't remember names until the fourth or fifth time of hearing it.
Yeah.
But faces, I try and remember those.
I think that's probably a pretty common thing. I think there's a lot of people out there I've heard say they struggle with names a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And I've tried using little tricks to remember people's names, but it just, unless their name's Matthew, I'm not going to remember it.
Do you ever call the animals the wrong name? I do it all the time.
I call my son the animals sometimes. He'll be doing something like Wookie, Mason.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Now, the other one I wanted to ask you about, though, is spicy food.
I do like some spicy food. It really didn't start until recently. One of my brothers, he loved watching Hot Ones, where they eat hot stuff while they're interviewing, and he bought all of the hot sauces.
Ooh, maybe we should do that.
Oh, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Oh, well, watch out. We may do that in a future episode. We may think of doing something like that.
He bought all of the hot sauces and then set up, it was a trivia competition. You eat a wing, he asks 2 questions to the group, and you're in teams. And at the end of it, my team won. And I was like, hey, it's not that bad. And well, the spiciness was bad, but then I started eating more and more, and then he did it again. And it's kind of evolved from there that I'm willing to try anything. And if it's spicy, it's 10 minutes of uncomfortable, but it goes away. It's all mind over matter.
Okay. I'll take your word for it on that. I made the mistake one time of going here in town and eating lunch, and I got somebody had on special Nashville hot chicken, and they weren't joking. It was hot.
Some of those were deceptively hot.
Whew. I struggled for a couple of days after that. My stomach was torn up. So I like spicy, but I stay away from it unless I have to.
And I don't want to eat a whole meal of spicy either. Just give me a little bit here and there, and I'm good with it. But if it's a whole meal of hot, I'm going to be sweating. My nose is running. It just
just don't film it. I'm going to eat it, but just don't film it. That's funny. I just can't. I can't do it. I love the flavor of it, but I just don't want to punish myself like that.
Oh yeah, well that's me with I've got a really analytical mind. So when I first started eating more hot stuff, and I knew that we were going to this trivia thing with all the hot stuff, I was like, okay, well I'm going to figure out what really can get rid of the heat. So I'd eat something really hot, and then I'd have milk and water and honey and ice cream. And
I've heard milk before, but
nothing.
Really,
everything. Some of them made it worse. Anything carbonated, whole lot worse. Those bubbles aggravated.
Oh yeah.
The one thing I found that helped a lot was just not drinking anything. And if you can make it 10 minutes, you're good. But if anywhere in that 10 minutes you drink something, it kind of resets that. So
you're braver than I am. I don't know that I could do that.
You just got 10 minutes of struggling, and then it's all good.
So speaking of 10 minutes of struggling, so I also noticed in your information that you gave me that you were in ROTC.
Yes. That was, I think that was also my freshman and sophomore year that I did that.
Okay, you did it for 2 years.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. I think it really taught me a lot. It's something I'd recommend to any high school student is to take the ROTC courses and just go into it, not expecting it to be boot camp, expecting it to be a way to learn, because it combined physical fitness, it combined history. There is wearing a uniform, so learning how to iron and how to polish shoes. I'd never really had to do that before, and and that kind of taught me that. And it was a really, really good experience for me.
Oh yeah, I've been involved with a few different events with our ROTC program here. It is a top-notch program.
Oh yes, it really was. I had First Sergeant Raymond and Colonel Smith, and they've both retired since. But those two, they were big impacts on my life. It was an incredible thing to do.
Oh yeah, I agree. And the ROTC has helped the city numerous times. They help with the soapbox derby that we do through Parks and Rec. Yeah. They'll usually send a crew out for that. They're big participants in the 9/11 stairwalk with the fire department. They've helped at all kinds of things. It is a absolutely phenomenal group of young folks out there that do that. Yes.
And it seems like every school event, there are ROTC volunteers who show up to help, whether it's the flag at football games or the ones that go and do push-ups in the end zone every time the team scores. Yeah. It's great to see them showing that support.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too with the color guard, with the flags. I know some of the programs I did at Parks and Rec, they just came to do that. They participate in the Veterans Day program. They will just all come together. They'll drive there, do their thing, and then they'll go to another one. They're doing 5 or 6 in a row.
Yeah.
So it's a large amount of discipline, large amount of dedication to do that. So
yeah, and it's a great thing for the kids to learn is how to participate in a group like that.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you about that was on here. Hold on just a second. Let me look through my show note here. Oh, yeah, this was a question that I want. Well, 2 questions actually. So, when you were running for office, what was the number one thing that you wanted to achieve with the board when you were campaigning? What was your goal?
One of the biggest things, and it's something that I still am pushing for, is to create housing opportunities that fit Tullahoma's income. Buying a $400,000 house isn't realistic for most of Tullahoma. Our average income is still, for the households, I think it's $55,000 to $60,000, and that ends up being a $200,000 or less house, and we don't have that available. So being able to help identify an area in Tullahoma that does fit well with, and then being able to help find a contractor who can build in that range too. I know Murfreesboro had a development. I think the last time I saw a sign was a few months ago, but they were starting in the 250s in Murfreesboro. If you can do that in Murfreesboro, then surely we can do that in Tullahoma. It's aligning a piece of land with the contractor and helping that happen. And that's one of those things I'd love to help push for, because I think that would also help attract some younger people to Tullahoma, because that's to make sure that we're still here 15, 20 years from now. We need to make sure that younger people are wanting to move here, because we need that to support us.
And so in that same realm, is that what fuels your passion for Tullahoma? What's the driver for you?
I want my son to have the option to come here when he's old enough to. If he goes to college and decides he loves the big towns, that's great. If he wants a small town, I want to make sure that Tullahoma is an option for him, somewhere that he can afford to live, somewhere that he doesn't feel out of place because he's the youngest person in the town, because there are towns that they're retirement communities basically, and you don't want to be the youngest person there having to help everyone mow their lawns and stuff.
Right.
So I want him to have the option to be here if he wants to. That's my biggest drive.
Yeah, you may have heard this too. I know in my time that I've lived here, I have heard that a lot of our young folks will go through our education system and they'll get to that graduation, and then we don't see them until they're in their 35, 40 years old range, coming back, or even older, maybe even to retire back here. But they graduate, go off and do great things, and then they come back after all the great things are done. And I don't know if you've heard that. I have heard that multiple times.
Yeah. And I've got some friends that their kids are close to graduation age, and it's, well, they're either going to have to live at home with their parents or move somewhere that it's affordable, because there is no real in between. And a few of them have said, we want to stay in Tullahoma, but we can't. So
Yeah.
I think being able to identify a way for them to stay is the next step.
And in that same realm, a follow-up question to that would be, what do you foresee, and I won't hold you to it, but what do you foresee being one of the bigger challenges Tullahoma is going to face in the coming years and next few years or so?
I'd say that it would be growth. If we grow too quick, then our infrastructure can't keep up with it. Our roads would start being way too congested. They're starting to get a little bit crowded, but it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
We have ways that we can expand them right now. Our school system, they're going to have to start planning for that growth too, and
Right.
it's hard for them to plan for that growth if we can't fund that growth too.
Good point. Mm-hmm.
It's great to say, yeah, y'all need to plan for this. We need money to do that. We need to build a new school. Well, then we need to start looking into that. And it's great to see something like Farah that's happening where
Mm-hmm.
they are building this new school and we have plans to use the old building as a daycare, or I don't remember what they called it, Head Start maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That we have these plans to expand so that our infrastructure can handle it. But if we grow too slow, then all of a sudden we don't have money to pay for any of this. We start slipping behind, and then Tullahoma starts to erode, and I don't want to see that either.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to see that. So
Yeah, so we have to find that kind of middle ground of where can we grow, but not too fast, but not too slow.
yeah, the Goldilocks zone is what
It's
we
gotta be
refer to
just
it as.
right.
It's got to be just right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there's no time limit on this, but I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to say it. So I want to give you the last word, and you've got hopefully 22,000-ish Tullahomans out there watching and listening to us right now. So if you had your chance to speak to them, what would you like to say to all of Tullahoma? What would you like to leave them with?
First would be a thank you. This has been an incredible journey. I've been learning so much about our city. And I would like to say that if you do have questions about, why is it that my trash wasn't picked up? Why is it that we're digging this big hole over here? Just reach out and ask. There's always someone who can answer those questions, and they're more than happy to answer those. And we are doing our best to try and make Tullahoma a better place, somewhere that we're happy to live, that our kids are going to be happy to live in. And I think that's really everyone's end goal is make Tullahoma a great place to live.
That I don't think I could have said it any better myself. So very good. Very good. And one of those places that you will be able to find a lot of the information and things that Alderman Bird is talking about, our city website, tullahomatn.gov. That happens to fall to me, so I am in the process of switching us from one provider to another. And I'm currently updating the new site, and that type of information is what I would like to put out there for folks who are looking at not just who live here, but also either prospective, incoming residents. Because I suspect we're probably going to have a lot of those in the near future.
I think so too, and I'm looking forward to seeing this new website. I've heard some great things about it.
Yeah, well, when we get finished, I can take you down to my office and show you.
Hey, that sounds great.
But I know when I drive to, I go to Murfreesboro and Nashville, pretty frequently. And the way that I usually go is that bypass that goes around Shelbyville. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I comment on this all the time, is that you can see, encroachment's not the right word, but you can see the expansion of Murfreesboro slowly creeping down that bypass road.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's not going to be long. They're going to be knocking on Shelbyville's door, and we are right behind that.
Yep.
I don't want to be the next Murfreesboro. I don't think anybody wants that type of thing, but yeah. So yeah, that's one of the things we're going to have a challenge with. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast actually, was to give folks, not in my position, but in your position and some of the other city employees that I'll have on, the opportunity to talk about that. I think that one of the things the city kind of gets a bad rap for things that aren't always our fault, but that's okay. When you're in the government business, you take that.
It happens. And that's one of those things that I think it's something I've always been good at is, if I know it's not my fault, I'm not going to worry too much about it, but I'm also going to try and fix it, even though it's not my fault. So
very good. Very good. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say for the good of the town?
Nothing that I can think of right now.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing some of those Lego sets put together.
I can show you pictures when we're done.
All right. Very good. Well, I'd like to say thank you to our very first ever guest, Alderman Matthew Bird. So thank you for joining me today. And I would like to do the sign off from one of my favorite 80s television icons, Bob Barker, is to help us control the unwanted pet population. So make sure you spay and neuter your pets. And I hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time on the Tullahoma At Work podcast.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
It's been great.
Awesome.